This is TWiT.
Ryan, let's start with you. Why don't you give us a 30,000-foot view of what Bitcore is and what the problem it is it's solving?
Sure. So Bitcore is a JavaScript Bitcoin library that works both in the browser and in Node. It's originally from some software written by a guy named Stephen Thomas in 2011. He wrote a JavaScript Bitcoin full node. And at BitPay, we really needed something like this. We have a full JavaScript stack. We use Node on the back end and JavaScript on the front end. So we really needed this library. Well, Stephen Thomas sort of went on and did other things. So we adopted his code base and turned it into this sort of just general library that does all sorts of stuff for Bitcoin-related functions and stuff. And we realized that it was better for us to re-open source this than it was for us to keep it closed source. So we did this over the course of last year, 2013. We made a bunch of improvements to the library and then re-open sourced it early this year in 2014. So that's the history in a nutshell. It is a general purpose Bitcoin library. You can connect to the Bitcoin network. You can create transactions. You can do lots of other things with the Bitcoin cryptography, all sorts of other features on top of the Bitcoin network that are just useful if you're writing a Bitcoin app. And of course, because it's written in JavaScript, it works on every platform. You know, you can use it in a web browser on anything, on an iPhone or whatever, like on your desktop computer. You can use it on your server in Node because we have optimizations for Node. So that's it. That's the history in a nutshell. General purpose JavaScript Bitcoin library.
Well, I'm sure that many of our audience is familiar with the Bitcoins and what they are, but why don't you give us sort of the background of that too? Like, how did it come about and what do you use it for?
Sure. So it's easy for me to forget to explain Bitcoin to people just because I spend all day on this stuff. So
yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in a nutshell, so Bitcoin is a protocol. It's a protocol for storing and transmitting value, and the central technological innovation of Bitcoin is something called the blockchain. The blockchain is the history of all transactions. And the blockchain is secured with cryptography. There's the proof of work function that ensures that you can't double spend money. And that uses the SHA-256 hash function. And Bitcoin also uses public-private key pairs from elliptic curve cryptography for spending money. So you have private keys that give you access to your money. And when you spend money, you sign a transaction that goes into the blockchain. Well, Bitcore does all of this stuff. It can create the transactions. You can sign it. You can manage your private keys. You can connect to the network because Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer network. So when you want to download the blockchain, you connect to other peers, and you send them messages and say, I wish to download the blockchain, basically. And all those commands are in Bitcore, so you can connect to the peer-to-peer network and download the blockchain and verify it and all that stuff using Bitcore. So there's that. That's sort of the Bitcoin protocol layer. And we also have lots of other features on top of that. So for instance, we've recently finished the payment protocol. The payment protocol is it's an easier way of making Bitcoin transactions that doesn't really have anything to do with the blockchain. You can create a payment request and sign it, and then somebody else can see your payment request because you deliver it to them, and then they make a payment to you. And because it's signed, they can know that they're sending money to the right person rather than to some random-looking Bitcoin address. So that's an example of a feature that we have on top of the core Bitcoin protocol. We have several of those other features because there are a bunch of standards in the Bitcoin world, and we're trying to implement all these standards that are just sort of extra features just on top that you can do that make everything easier, make everything more user-friendly, and that you can integrate these into your apps.